Hi, welcome to a brand new video of the Target Individual Program, the Target Individual Experience. In this video, I will be discussing a document called The Mind Has No Firewall. Okay, let me turn off my webcam. But first I want to talk about my targeting today. So today, again, whenever they have me on the remote monitoring, whenever they're accessing, and you hear, I'm glad you guys are hearing this, because as soon as I started recording, I was about to record, you hear the noise in the background. I guess they want to be heard on the recording, because for whatever reason, they always do these things to try to disrupt the videos that I do. That's why sometimes I do these things late at night. It's a little early. I just got home not too long ago, and just want to talk about my targeting today before move on to this document here. Okay, this is from the Army War College Quarterly, volume 28, November, number 1, parameter spring 1998. So this is from 1998 now. Okay, but anyway, so today it had me on the heavy remote monitoring to the point where I got a headache. On top of that, they were microwaving me and the kids, and I talk about how when I'm in the house and Pam is there, how she would sometimes sitting in the kitchen, as soon as she sees me, she gets up and turns around and look out the window. Or if I'm in the living room, sitting down, what have you, she would just come into the living room and again look out the window. Okay, whenever I'm being targeted, all while doing hand signals. So today they were doing the same thing to my daughter. Whereas again, I was in the kitchen. She came in the kitchen and went straight to the window, looked out the window. So I'm looking at her, I said, okay. And I'm observing, I said, okay, if she does it again, I'm going to bring it to her attention. So we went into the living room. And as soon as we got into the living room, what did she do? She went straight, walked to the window, looked at the window. And at that point, I said, why you keep going into the window? Stop going in the window. There's no need for you to go in the window. Okay. Then, later on, she did the same thing. She just came out of the shower. Okay. I was in the kitchen talking with Pam. Pam, I came home. And she, again, my daughter, just got out the bathroom. All right. Was drying her skin. She drops her towel, walks towards the window in the kitchen to look at the window. I said, what's the matter with you? What are you doing? You walk into the window with no clothes on? I said, you better get back and put your damn towel around you. Okay. And all the while Pam was tired, so I guess they couldn't use her to target me the way that they would normally target me. But earlier on, I ended up having a massive headache. Okay. Pam had called me. This was around a little after 3. And I was in the bathroom, and we were talking, and then all of a sudden this horrible pain. Okay, and it was like a mixture between the ice pick type headache and the radiating type, both at the same time. And I had to go. I said time, and they're knocking the ceiling, which is fine. Whatever, let's go. So, so I said to her, I said, listen, I gotta go. I said, I told you, I gotta go take a serotriptine. As soon as I got off the phone with her, my son texted me, my oldest son. Now, I've been texting him for 2 days now, actually 3 days. Saturday I texted him, he didn't text me back. Sunday I texted him, he never texted me back. And then, but as soon as I got off the phone with Pam, he texted me. Now, again, because I know what's being done, because the fact that they don't want me to go take my medication, and sometimes they'll try to use him as a tool, right? Like in terms of whether he communicates with me or not. I talked about the last time he came to visit me, he was going to spend the night, but as soon as he heard the police siren, he was like, well, I gotta go. So I know that they're targeting him some way also, right? Because this is what they do. They just, not only when a family member is targeted, they target other family members. If they don't participate in it and then agree to participate in it, then they become targeted themselves. There's an interesting, not interesting, but there was a program called Consensual, okay? And before I read this article, I'm gonna let me find that article on that program, and before I get to this, the Miners on Firewall document, I'm just gonna do a quick read on what that program was. All right, I'm back. Now, if you go to Wikipedia, type in Zoom, okay? And before I begin, so I was talking about my son. So they're all trying to psychologically bribe me or psychologically intimidate me into silence, right? By promising me this or what have you. Okay, and again, because it's psychological, they can say, well, we didn't actually do that because you can't prove it, right? Because it's all about psychological and the use of these weapons. But again, I've done so much research on this thing, and I've also analyzed my own targeting, and also the people that have been put in my life, right? And this is, again, my twin brother was a target first in the mid-90s. And I realized that when he became a target, because he told me later on, they said that they were going to do the exact same thing to me, that I was also a target. Okay, so this goes beyond that. This goes from, and even also going to doctors and getting, being lied to about, what's wrong with you and stuff like that. These were all part of the program, right? This was all part of the program. How and why? Again, non-consensual human experimentation. So this is why, once I've learned, once I've studied, once I analyze, this is why, like I said, I'm ready to fight them in the space of public opinion, as well as whether it be the judicial courtroom or what have you, or civil litigation, what have you, because I am not going to let them get away with this. Okay, and that is a promise. All right, so let's go to Wikipedia, Zoom. Okay, so Zoom, I can't even pronounce like this in German, for decomposition and disruption. Okay, well, let me here it says the article is about a Stasi psychological warfare technique for the Nazi Germany crime of undermining the war effort. Just as so, right? German, for decomposition and disruption, was a psychological warfare technique used by the Ministry of State Security, Stasi, to repress political opponents in East Germany during the 1970s and 1980s. Zoom served to combat alleged and actual dissidents through covert means, using secret methods of abusive control and psychological manipulation. To prevent anti-government activities, people were commonly targeted on a preventative basis for politically incorrect activities they may have gone on to perform, and not on the basis of crimes they have actually committed. Zoom methods were designed to break down, undermine, and paralyze people behind a facade of social normality in the form of silent repression. Eric Honecker's succession to Walter Albright as first secretary of the Socialist Unity Party of Germany, SED, in 1971 saw an evolution of operational procedures, operational avant-garde, conducted by Stasi away from the overt terror of the Albright era towards what came to be known as Zoom, which was formerly a derivative number 176 on the development and revision of operational procedure in January 1976. The Stasi used operational psychology and its extensive network of between 170,000 to over, listen to this, 500,000 informal collaborators. Okay? So imagine that. This was in the 1970s and 1976. And here today, over the past 2 decades, they here in the United States, which is running these sort of programs, we're talking about millions of state actors, okay, or informal collaborators. Okay, to launch personalized psychological attacks against targets to damage their mental health and lower chances of a hostile action against the state. Among the collaborators were youths as young as 14 years of age. Well, today they are youths as young as 6 and 7. Okay. The use of Zerzuzzang is well documented due to Stasi files published after the Berlin Wall fell, with several thousands of up to 10,000 individuals estimated to have become victims, 5,000 of whom sustained irreversible damage. Special pension and restitution have been created for Zerzuzzang victims. But you see here in this program in the United States, they don't want you to get restitution. Okay, this is why the constant attack on my disability and as the others TIs are disability, and the constant fact that because I am trying to reverse a lot of the damage that they've done, you know, as part of it also. But the damage is always done, whether I'm able to, you know, stay out of mental institutions or have you. The damage is already done, so they can't even reverse it. Okay, I can reverse some of it because again, the use of the psychological tactics, understanding it, so you get to develop tactics and methods. Okay, but because of your whatever defense mechanism you develop, it will affect you in terms of how you interact with people. Okay, so for me, when I see people sticking their fingers in their ears, I'll stick my fingers in their ears because I'm fighting back. Now it's funny because yesterday, you know, because I slept over by Pam, and yesterday, you know, she was walking around, you know, she just had on her underwear on, and you know, I came into the kitchen and she was standing there and like, you know, I get, you know, her underwear right up in her butt or what have you, and I said, man, look at all of that booty. And she turned to me and she said, oh, I see you choose violence. And I'm like, what are you talking about, choose violence? She's like, oh, I'm only playing. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, co-opting her, like I said, it is to co-opt and to take over a person's conscious mind. Okay, your mind is still there, but you're going to do what they've instructed you to do with this technology. So there's always, sometimes, like I said, I find myself, you know, internally, certain things will come up in my head and I say, fuck you motherfuckers, that's not going to happen. You know, because I know it is them that are putting these things in my mind. You know, when you don't understand these things, you'll just do what your mind is telling you to do. Okay, because again, it is their instructions to your mind. They're cooperating your conscious mind with this technology, and we'll go into that, you know, in the article, in the paper that I'm going to read too. Okay, and this one, the mind has no firewall. Okay, so. So a method of operation by the Ministry of State for State Security for the efficacious struggle against subversive activities, particularly in the treatment of operation. With Zerzuzzang, one can influence hostile and negative individuals across different operational political activities, especially the hostile and negative aspect of their disposition and beliefs. So these are abandoned and changed little by little, and if applicable, the contradiction and the differences between the hostile and the negative forces would be laid open, exploited, and reinforced. The goal of Zerzuzzang is the fragmentation, paralysis, disorganization, the isolation of the hostile and negative forces, or in order to preventatively impede the hostile and negative activities, to largely restrict or to totally avert them, and if applicable, to prepare the ground for a political and ideological reestablishment. Now, when they say negative, they talk about the state. So, for example, you look at the FBI coining of Black Lives Matter in that movement, and they created the term Black extremists. But let's look at the flip side of the KKK, how they never once labeled those groups to be white extremists. So understand the careful game of manipulation that is being done here. Okay, I give you another example. There was this guy. His name is Master J, right? He was the leader of a black paramilitary group called the No Fucking Around Coalition. And they basically were calling out the KKK because the KKK was, making threats against black people and stuff like that. And they had a march where they marched at Stone Mountains in Atlanta, Georgia, which is the home of the KKK. And they had a rally, I think it was in Michigan or Minnesota, one of those states. And about a few months later, the FBI came and arrested him and said that he pointed a rifle at an FBI agent. Okay? Now, I want you to understand what happened, because many people don't want to believe this. Okay? So what we're talking about here, again, is the co-opting of a person consciousness. Okay? Because let's say his thing was like, look, I wasn't pointing my rifle at anybody. I was just looking through the scope. Okay? Now, if there are FBI agents on the rooftop, how is he supposed to know that? That means that if I go to look through my scope, right, though I'm not pointing it at anybody in particular, I'm just looking through it, and so somehow it's pointing in the direction of an agent which I can't even see with my own eyes. You know what I'm saying? So I understand how to use these tactics. So now what happened to this guy? All of a sudden he just disappeared. Okay? He just disappeared. Right? He's no longer there. So they've basically neutralized this individual because they saw him as a threat. They saw this guy who had a large following of black people, men and women, who, just like with the KKK now, okay, who were training, who had military experience, and they didn't want that, and they wanted to remove him. Okay? So like I said, yeah, we're going to have this fight because all wars are based off of deception. And if they can co-opt the person's mind to get them to do something that they can try to remove them because they consider them to be a threat, that's what and this is what this technology does. It does exactly that. So let's move on. Okay, so Zercism is equally an immediate constitutive element of operational procedure and other preventative activities to impede hostile gathering. They use the term hostile gathering, but it could be people protesting against the state. If the state is committing crimes against the people are protesting, just like the Black Lives Matter. They consider them to be criminals. And also, even in there was a report of a police chief, a black woman now, right, who were charging Black Lives Matter protesters as gang members, okay, engaging gang activities. All right, well, we know who the biggest gangs are, right? We know who the biggest criminals are. They're within the police department. They're within law enforcement, without a doubt. Okay? And so, like I said, whenever they try to make me look bad, they're going to look even worse because I'm going to bring out the truth. Okay? And trust me, there's a whole list of documents to show just how criminally these people are. But because they have made us feel as if we don't have the power to fight them, and they do that in a very covert way of destroying our financial support, friends and family support, and to isolation, just as you have here in Zercism. Okay, so what this is, you got this COINTELPRO, Zercism, plus these technologies that's being created, plus they foot soldiers who will slip drugs in your, if you go out to eat, they're drugging you and you don't even know. Okay? And all they do little by little. And over time, you start to get ill, you start to feel sick. All the while, you're not even thinking about that you might have been poisoned. This is why I said, I eat out. I still eat out because I've been poisoned so many times. I said the next time it happens, I am going to I document everything. So once you have that documentation, then you're on your way to exposing what it is that they do. Okay. So let's see right here. All right, so the principal force of the implement of Zerstezum are the unofficial collaborators. Zerstezum presuppose information and significant proof of hostile activities planned, prepared, and accomplished, as well as anchor points corresponding to measures of Zerstezum. Zerstezum must be produced on the basis of a root cause analysis of the facts and the exact definition of a concrete goal. Zerstezum must be executed in a uniform and supervised manner. Its results must be documented. The political explosive force of Zerstezum heightened demands regarding the maintenance of secrecy. So you see, they are very, very upset that I have exposed a lot of things that they've done, and they're going to try to bury me. And I understand this. It is something that I know that they were going to do. So they have not surprised me in any way. Remember, I've done a lot of research on these individuals. I understand their psychological profile. Okay? And this is what they don't like. The fact that someone like me is able to have a psychological profile of who they are. Because see, they like to tell people your psychological profile. But what they don't tell people is how they manipulate it, how they do things covertly to create the psychological profile that they say you are. Okay? I understand that. So anyway, we're not going to go to the historical and political goals because, again, you guys can go and read this. Just do a Wikipedia search. You will find all the information you need on this. Okay? So now let's go through the book. Not the book, I'm sorry. The article. All right, let me go to the Army War College, and you guys can download the PDF. Actually, when you go through here and you click on the link to download, it will direct you to this page right here, this PDF right here. Okay, and I'm going to show you guys when we talk about STIs how they use certain religious aspect and particularly the number 666. I want you guys to check this out. Okay. So the mind has no firewall. Timothy L. Thomas, from Parameters, Spring 1998, page 84 to 92. It is completely clear that the state which is first to create such weapon will achieve incomparable superiority. Major I. Chernifer's Russian army. I'm not sure if I'm saying his name correct, but anyway. The human body, much like a computer, contains myriad data processors. They include but are not limited to the chemical electrical activity of the brain, heart, and peripheral nervous system. The signals sent from the cortex region of the brain to other parts of our body, the tiny hair cells in the inner ear that produce auditory signal, and the light-sensitive retina and cornea of the eye that process visual activity. We are on the threshold of an era in which these data processors of the human body can be manipulated or debilitated. Examples of unplanned attack on the body's data processing capabilities are well documented. Strobe lights have been known to cause epileptic seizure. Not long ago in Japan, children watching television cartoons were subject to pulsating lights that caused seizures in some and made others very sick. Depending defendant-friendly and targeting adversary data processing capabilities of the body appear to be an area of weakness in the U.S. approach to information warfare theory, a theory oriented heavily towards systems data processing and designed to attain information dominance on the battlefield. Also, it would appear from information in the open unclassified papers. This U.S. shortcoming may be a serious one, since the capabilities to alter the data processing system of the body already exist. A recent edition of U.S. News and World Report highlighted several of these wonder weapons, acoustic, microwave lasers, and note that scientists are searching the electromagnetic and sonic spectrum for wavelength that can affect human behavior. A recent Russian military article offered a slightly different slant to the problem, declaring that humanity stands on the brink of a psychotronic war with the mind and body as the focus. That article discussed Russian and international attempts to control the psychophysical condition of man and his decision-making processes by the use of UHF generators, noiseless cassettes, and other technologies. An entire new arsenal of weapons based on devices designed to introduce subliminal messages or to alter the body's psychological and data processing capabilities might be used to incapacitate individual. These weapons aim to control or alter the psyche or to attack the various sensory and data processing system of the human organism. In both cases, the goal is to confuse or destroy the signal that normally kept the body in equilibrium. This article examines energy-based weapons, psychotronic weapons, and other development designed to alter the ability of the human body to process stimuli. One consequence of such assessment is that the way we commonly use the term information warfare falls short when the individual soldier, not his equipment, becomes the target of attack. Excuse me. Get something to drink here. Information warfare theory and the data processing element of humans. In the United States, the common perception of information warfare focused primarily on the capabilities of hardware systems such as computers, satellite, and military equipment, which process data in its various forms. According to the Department of Defense derivative S 3600.1 of 9, December 1996, information warfare is defined as an information operation conducted during times of crisis or conflict to achieve or promote specific objective over a specific adversary or adversaries. An information operation is defined in the same derivative as action taken to affect adversary information and information system while defending one's own information and information system. These information systems lie at the heart of the modernization effort of the U.S. Armed Forces and other countries and manifest themselves as hardware, software, communication capabilities, and highly trained individuals. Recently, the U.S. Army conducted a mock battle that tests these systems under simulated combat condition. U.S. Field Army Manual 101-5-1, Operational Terms and Graphics, released 3rd December 1997, defined information warfare as action taken to achieve information superiority by affecting a hostile information-based processes, and information system, while defending one's own information processes, and the information system. The same manual defines information operation as a continuous military operation within the military information environment that enable, enhance, and protect friendly forces' ability to collect, process, and act on information to achieve an advantage across the full range of military operations. Information operations include interacting with the global information environment and exploiting or denying an adversary information and decision capabilities. This system approach to the study of information warfare emphasizes the use of data, referred to as information, to penetrate an adversary's physical defense that protects data information in order to obtain operational or strategic advantage. It has tended to ignore the role of the human body as an information or data processor in this quest for dominance, except in those cases where an individual's logic or rational thought may be upset via disinformation or deception. As a consequence, little attention is directed towards protecting the mind and body with a firewall, as we have done with hardware systems, nor have any techniques for doing so been prescribed. Yet the body is capable not only of being deceived, manipulated, or misinformed, but also shut down or destroyed. Recently, I said within the past month, they started sending me subliminal message about a kill switch, about if I go get this chip removed, that through the kill chip, which is again the same chip, that they will kill me, right? So I guess that's why a lot of people, when I go get MRIs done, they act very, very funny or very scared. They have like this scared look on their face when they look at me. But anyway, I don't really give a damn. Okay. So the data the body receives from external sources such as electromagnetics, vortex, or acoustic energy waves, or creates through its own electrical or chemical stimuli, can be manipulated or changed, just as the data information in any hardware system can be altered. The only body-related information warfare element considered by the United States is psychological operation, PSYOPs. In Joint Publication 3-13.1, for example, PSYOPs is listed as one of the elements of command and control warfare. The publication notes that the ultimate target of information warfare is the information-dependent process, whether human or automated. Command and control warfare, C2W, is an application of information warfare in military operation. C2W is the integrated use of PSYOPs, military deception, operational security, electronic warfare, and physical destruction. One source defined information as a non-accidental signal used as an output to a computer or communication system. The human body is a complex communication system constantly receiving non-accidental and accidental signal input, both external and internal. If the ultimate target of information warfare is the information-dependent process, whether human or automated, then the definition in the joint publication implies that human data processing of internal and external signals can clearly be considered an aspect of information warfare. Foreign researchers have noted the link between humans of data processor and the conduct of information warfare, while some studies only denote the link between humans as data processor and the conduct of information warfare, while some studies only the PSYOPs link, others go beyond it. As an example of the former, one recent Russian article described offensive information warfare is designed to use the internet channel for the purpose of organizing psyops as well as for early political warnings of threat to American interests. The author assertion was based on the fact that all mass media are used for psyops. Remember this. All mass media. It is how the Bush administration used the media, particularly the New York Times, as well as Fox News, okay, to propagate lies in which they use to gain the American support for invading Iraq, which did nothing to the United States. Okay? But it clearly shows the effectiveness of psyops on the American public. Okay? So, and today this must include the internet. The author assessed that the Pentagon wanted to use the internet to reinforce psychological influence. Now, what have we seen over the past, I would say, decade, particularly with Facebook, in terms of Facebook running psychological operations, okay, psychological programming through subliminal message, through algorithms to affect teenagers, to affect adults, to affect the election of the United States. Okay? So where do you think all of this is coming from? All right? So we go back here. So the author assessed that the Pentagon wanted to use the internet to reinforce psychological influence during special operation conducted outside the U.S. border to enlist sympathizers who would accomplish many of the tasks previously entrusted to special units of the U.S. Armed Forces. Others, however, look beyond simple psyops tides to consider other aspects of the body data processing capability. One of the principal open source researchers on the relationship of information warfare to the body data processing capability is Russian Dr. Viktor Solves. I'm trying to butcher this guy's name here, of the Beaumont Technical Institute in Moscow. So I'm just going to say so, is a young, well-intended researcher striving to point out to the world the potential danger of the computer operator interface, in which today what you call the computer brain interface, right? Okay, support by a network of institutes and academies. So has produced some interesting concept. He insists that man must be viewed as an open system instead of simply as an organism or closed system. As an open system, man communicates with his environment through information flows and communication media. One physical environment, whether through electromagnetic, gravitational, acoustic, which I'll talk about, or other effect, can cause a change in the physiological condition of an organism. In sole opinion, change of this sort could directly affect the mental state and consciousness of a computer operator. This would not be electronic war or information warfare in the traditional sense, but rather in a non-traditional and non-US sense. It might encompass, for example, a computer modified to become a weapon by using its energy output to emit acoustics that debilitate the operator. It also might encompass, as indicated below, futuristic weapon aimed against man open system. Now, talk about a computer modified to become a weapon. I talk about this in my early years of targeting when I was not so much aware, but something was happening around me that I wasn't fully too quite gasp. It's just kind of like, when things happen that are strange, you're like, you start to notice these things. So I was just starting to notice the strange things that was happening. But anyway, my cell phone, right, that, I always had it on vibrate or what have you. But what was happening is that the lower half of my body would be vibrating. I mean, the vibration was so strong that I would grab my hip, right, to see who was calling me. But when I grabbed my hip and I looked down, I was like, my cell phone was not attached to the pouch on my belt. Because at those times, we all had the cell phone where you had the, the pouch that you put the cell phone in. And it wasn't on me. And I couldn't understand. And it was happening so much. And so what that did after years of going through that, it basically damaged my spine. Okay. And let me tell you, they try everything to try to say, oh, it's because I used to work out and this and that. Bull. Okay. This was happening to me so regular that I'm telling you that I would literally couldn't even understand it. And then there were times when I was sitting down and all of a sudden I would feel like the ground was vibrating. It was very, very, subtle. Okay. But it's like sometimes, when it's an aftershock to an earthquake, but there was no earthquake. And it was just enough that when I was sitting down, I felt it. Okay. And then there are times when it was basically my body, my physical body, the lower half, that would vibrate. As if, when you put your phone on vibrate when somebody call you, that was the kind of vibration I was feeling. Okay. So also examine the problem of information noise, which create a dense shield between a person and external reality. This noise may manifest itself in the form of signals, messages, images, or other items of information. The main target of this noise would be the consciousness of a person or a group of people. Behavior modification could be one objective of information noise. Another could be an upset to upset an individual mental capacity to such an extent as to prevent reaction to any stimuli. So concludes that all level of a person's psyche, subconsciousness, conscious, and superconsciousness are potential targets for destabilization. And this is what I talk about when I say that they can co-opt a person consciousness. Okay? It could be for a brief moment, and it could be for an extended period of time. Because with silent sound, what you are hearing is your own inner voice. And we know how they can control people's autonomy with these technologies. We know this. So this is why sometimes when I find myself doing these hand signals to myself, I literally have to become conscious, just think about it. And if I can't control it, then I put my hands, if I'm laying down, underneath my blanket so I don't see them. But then when I do that, all of a sudden, my legs start shaking. But anyway, so this is interesting, right? Because as TIs, we talk about how they use the number 666, right? Okay. So according to Soul, one computer virus capable of affecting a person's psyche is Russian virus 666. And when I first read this, I remember early on in my targeting, I was trying to get in contact with the ACLU. So I had called them and they, couldn't get through. And I figured, I said, you know what, they're interrupting, interfering, okay, with the phones. So let me go down there. So I Googled it, okay, And when I got off the train, I was walking to where the ACLU was. I never even got to there. All of a sudden, I just stopped. I stopped, right, on the sidewalk. And I look up at this building, and the building number was 666. Okay? I mean, listen, I'm not making this shit up. All right. I mean, at the time, I didn't even think about recording this stuff because, again, it's the early phases of the cell phones. The camera was not as good as they are now. Okay. So it manifests itself in every 25th frame of a visual display, where it produces a combination of colors that allegedly put computer operator into a trance. The subconscious perception of the new pattern eventually results in arrhythmia of the heart. Other Russian computer specialists, not just Seoul, talk openly about this 25th frame effect and its ability to subtly manage a computer user perception. The purpose of this technique is to inject a thought into the viewer's subconscious. It may remain some of the subliminal advertising controversy in the United States in the late 1950s. And then they had this message about subliminal messages being put on records and advertising in the United States in the 1950s. The last example of this was the Popeyes chicken sandwich that had subliminal messages in it. Because when you look at how people behaved, right? When you look at how people behave, that was a test. They were testing out this new type of subliminal on the minds of the American public. U.S. views on wonder weapons altering the data processing ability of the body. Now, I want you guys to check this out. I'm going to go to Facebook. Okay, just hold on a sec. And I'm going to show you how these things are being planted into people's minds. Okay. Hold on a sec. Let me pause the recording. Okay, so I had to go to Facebook because when I was reading this, I kept saying to myself, oh, no wonder this exchange I had between this person on Facebook, he was calling me woke wonder. Okay. And I just want to show you guys, because again, this is what they do. They send these subliminal messages so that in what is called anchoring and trigger. So this person kept calling me woke wonder. So as you guys can see here, where this person, Curtis Q. Reed, okay, and he says, Nigel, you don't know any of that, woke wonder, knock it off, or whatever, because I'm not going to get into the topic, but I just want to show you guys this, because they will, let me go back to this here, because they will always plant these anchors and triggers. So there's nothing, if you're a TI, there's nothing that is coincidental. Understand this, okay? Even when you think back, even when you realize something was wrong, nothing that ever happened to you was coincidental. Okay? Remember that. It was all planned, implemented, put into action. Okay? So when I saw the wonder weapon, I was like, my mind went back to that discussion I was having. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. Anyway, U.S. views on wonder weapon altering the data processing ability of the body. While technology have been examined by the United States that possesses the potential to disrupt the data processing capabilities of the human organism, the 7th July 1997 issues of U.S. News and World Report describes several of them designed, among other things, to vibrate the insides of human. Remember, I've been talking about this for years. You can go back to my video well over a decade ago when I talked about how the lower half of my body, I was just talking about that, right? How it was vibrated, stun or nauseate them, put them to sleep, heat them up, or knock them down with a shock wave. The technologies include dazzling lasers that can force the pupil to close, acoustic and sonic frequency that can cause the hair cells in the inner ears to vibrate and cause motion sickness, vertigo, and nausea. Okay, or frequencies that resonate the internal organs, causing pain and spasms, and shockwave with the potential to knock down humans or airplane, and which can be mixed with pepper spray or chemical. Now, they talk about the vibration in the ears. I'm talking about the vibration of your body. Okay? To what is called acoustic weapons, right? Or vibrational weapons. Okay? Now we know there's a technology what is called bone conduction technology, which you can now find headphones where you don't have to put the headphone over your ears or in your ears. You put them on your head and you will hear music. What it does is that it transfers sounds. It uses the bones in your body as the conductor for sound. So it bypasses the ears, okay? And you hear the music or ad or whatever in your mind. Okay, so with modification, these technologies application can have many use. Acoustic weapons, for example, could be adapted for use as acoustic rifles or as acoustic fields that, once established, might project facilities, assist in hostage rescue, riot control, or clear path for convoy. These waves, which can penetrate buildings, offer a host of opportunities for military and law enforcement officials. Microwave weapons, by stimulating the peripheral nervous system, can heat up the body, induce epileptic-like seizure, or cause cardiac arrest. Low-frequency radiation effect of electrical activities of the brain and can cause flu-like symptoms and nausea. Other projects sought to induce or prevent sleep. And this is what happened whenever I'm on the remote neural monitoring, is that the effect of that afterwards, not only do I get the headaches, but also I have insomnia where I cannot sleep. Okay? Or to affect the signal from the motor cortex portion of the brain, overriding voluntary muscle movement. Okay? The latter are referred to as pulse wave weapons, and the Russian government has reportedly bought over 10,000 copies of the Black Widow version of them. However, this view of wonder weapon was contested by someone who should understand them. Brigadier General Larry Dorjan, Deputy Assistant of the Secretary of Defense for Policies and Missions, wrote a letter to the editor about the numerous inaccuracies in the U.S. News and World Report article that misrepresent the Department of Defense views. Dorjan's primary complaint seemed to have been that the magazine misrepresented the use of these technologies and their value to the armed force. He also underscored the U.S. intent to work within the scope of any international treaty concerning their application. Really? Why don't you go ask the targeted individuals what they've experienced? Okay, because you know there is something called the Nuremberg Code. And no matter how they may try to sidestep it, it's still a law on the books, an international law that says that you cannot put people in non-consent in any experimentation without their consent. This is why we are, as TIs, non-consensual human experimentation victims. Okay? And how do you think they plan on getting away with it? Okay? Is by using these weapons to not only torture, but to manipulate our minds, to hack our consciousness, to get us to make mistakes, to engage in any activity that they can try to use to silence us. Okay? But I always say that's not going to work. Once I began to realize what was happening, once I began to study what was happening, not just to me, but to other TIs. And when I look back at things that happened to me in the past, while my brother was being targeted, and I had no idea because they were trying to silence him. Okay, they were trying to silence him. And it wasn't until I opened up to him and tell him what was happening, that was when he opened up to me and told me a lot of his experience. Okay? So, as well as so see, he also underscored the U.S. intend to work within the scope of any international treaty concerning the application, as well as plans to abandon or at least redesign any weapon for which countermeasures are known. One is left with the feeling, however, that research in this area is intense. A concern not mentioned by Dugan is that other countries or non-state actors may not be bound by the same constraint. It is hard to imagine someone with a greater desire than terrorists to get their hands on these technologies. Psychoterrorism could be the next buzzword. Okay, so I'm not going to get into the psychoterrorism thing because as far as I'm concerned, the United States is guilty of that. Okay, and me, myself and other TIs, we're all victims of psychoterrorism. Okay, and the main country and entities that have engaged in that against us is the United States and its security and law enforcement agencies. As with any sort of experimentation within the United States, the law enforcement and top law enforcement agencies have always been a part of it. And in fact, when you look at programs like COINTELPRO, you look at programs like MK Ultra, okay, as well as Project Pandora, when it comes to experimentation on non-consensual human victims, law enforcement has always been used as a tool to not only spread propaganda, but to engage in setups and frame-ups, to engage in hiring honey traps, male or female, okay, and to recruit criminals to engage in criminal activity and even murder against those that they have put into a non-consensual experimentation because of the fear of those individuals exposing what was done to them. This is why I document everything. This is why, you know, when I went on to a particular website, you know, and the person like, well, my uncle was an FBI agent and he told me that as a TI that I need to document everything. That is when I started documenting everything. And that has basically, you know, put things in a lot of perspective for me. Seeing the type of tactics that they were engaged in, the psyops, the use of the police, the use of surveillance, okay, in which has never been seen, okay, to which I have shown. And so, yeah, well, they want to bury me. Guess what? I'm going to bury them. Okay? So, you want to retaliate for me speaking the truth? I'm going to bury you. Just like how you threatened to bury me, I'm going to bury you. All of you. Okay. Let me pause this video and I'm going to come back and I'm going to speak about certain things. Okay, so I said I was going to get into the psychological terrorism on the other article, but I do wanted to come back to that. Okay, what you have here is a declassified document. Okay, this is unclassified report for release 2007. Let's see here. 2007. Approved for release 2008-11. Okay. Now, I always remember this because I've posted this so many times. Okay. And for one, being a TI, targeted individual, and not just experiencing my life as being a TI, being targeted psychologically as well as with psychotronic weapons, as well as with acoustic weapons, and as well as an unprecedented amount of surveillance, food poisoning, drugging. Excuse me. Okay. And as well as being irradiated with microwave frequencies and radio wave frequencies for mind control. And I wanted to read this because, again, I got to keep reiterating these things and showing these things because we have been programmed as a society, as people, to have short-term memory, particularly those of us who are Black. Yes, and I'm continue and will always continue to advocate and say these things because it is the truth. Okay, and so again, I already know the pushback why you got to be about Black and white and this and that, but it is okay, and this is the reality, and I live in the real world. Despite what they've done to me, despite how they have tried to make me look delusional, and at times I was. Also, I recognize when they send other people to try to recruit you into a delusional way of thinking and believing. Okay, so I understand these things. All right, so this extract. It would be tempting to turn psychological weapon against one's own people and make millions of them forget about discontent with the system of social inequality, about the struggle for peace, and about their civil rights. Oppressed but joyful. Okay, this is what I'm describing here with Black people today, particularly in America. And you look at some of the research, the surveys about whether you think you have a greater chance of achieving the American dream, most Black people said yes, despite the reality to the contrary. Even white people don't think, the majority of white people don't think that they'll achieve the American dream. Neither Hispanic people, not the majority. But when you have over 70% of Black people in the United States saying that they believe firmly that they will achieve the American dream. How? When the reality says otherwise. Okay? Fleeced by monopolies, but content with everything. Wouldn't this be the ideal citizens from the point of view of the ruling circles and countries of the West? This what newspapers of ours wrote quite recently about MK Ultra, an ultra-secret program of American intelligence which was aimed at turning people into zombies en masse. Oh, it's still happening. But now with the use of radio wave and microwave base frequency weapons. Okay? But we now know that we ourselves has not escaped such brainwashing. Stories about design bureaus at which instruments have been developed for producing long-distance effects on the human mind have begun to appear in the papers. Among the mail that we receive from our readers have been a trickle of letters which mention individual brainwashing by mysterious psychological weapons. Vladimir Nikitovich Vilchenko is a professor of the Moscow State Technical University's Imeni Berman and deputy chief of the USSR Union of Scientific and Engineering Societies Committee on Bioenergy Information Processing. He took part in preparing materials on the question of protecting citizens against psychological terror for the RSFSR Supreme Soviet. For such case to become fewer, people must first be rescued from psychological terror, which is now occurring, says Vilchenko. The term psychological terror refers to factors which adversely affect human consciousness. So whenever they co-opt my consciousness, and at times now I can tell and I'm able to, and I usually curse them in my mind, okay? You know, this is what I do. So when I realize certain things is being said, I'm saying certain things internally, and I would be like, F you motherfuckers, that's not going to happen. You know, whenever they try to get me to act out in violence, right? And I guess this is where, you know, they co-opt Pam's mind to say that I choose violence. I'm like, how I choose violence? Because I comment on you're walking around the apartment in your underwear, half your butt cheeks are showing, and because I said, oh, that's a whole lot of butt cheek, that I'm choosing violence. I mean, understand that. And again, what would be the rationale for her even saying that? Well, what would be her way of thinking? You know, she does it all the time, right? And I mentioned that she's never said that before. Well, all of a sudden she's saying, I'm choosing violence. I said, okay, let's see the game that they want to play, you know? So, politics and ideology are not the only ones which should be mentioned. Among the rest are hypnosis, shown at stadium and on television. After the trailblazer psychotherapist A. Kasperovsky came hundreds of his followers who have been given similar performance. The trouble is not even that many of these therapists are elementary acquisitor who are out to make easy money in a hurry. This is a topic for a separate conversation. The danger lies elsewhere. Mass sessions of this kind have a substantial impact on the hypnobility of millions of televiewers. The assertion heightened it, and it means that the viewers stand a greater chance of being turned into zombie. Now, I would want to take this a step further and talk about the antipsychotic drugs found in our findings in our water supply, our drinking water supply, and the Department of Health saying that it's too low of a percentage to affect us, right? And instead of saying that there should be no kind of drugs in the water supply, none whatsoever. But that's not their stance. Their stance is it's just a very low percentage, and it wouldn't cause any type of adverse effect. No. And we are stupid enough to believe them because they've conditioned that into us. I understand that. Okay, so I'm not saying you're stupid to be stupid. I'm saying is that we are ignorant, we are stupid because we are conditioned to be that way. Non-critical thinkers, we are conditioned to be that way. Okay? And you know, it is just something that we have to be aware of. You know, self-awareness is key. Let me put the webcam back on. I'm using my headphones. Self-awareness is key. Okay? Because without it, you won't even, well, self-awareness. Let me put on back the webcam here. Okay. Oh, that's not it. Let's see. Is this it? Yes. Okay. So self-awareness is key. But not only self-awareness is key, but knowledge of the technology is equally as important. Because you see, you can be self-aware, okay? But without you can be self-aware of your behavior, but then they can still co-opt your consciousness, okay? But now that you understand that these weapons exist and they've been used on you, now not only are you self-aware, but you're aware of the technologies. So now when certain things or certain situation arrive, instead of saying, okay, I'm self-aware, I'm gonna be very careful. No, you would remove yourself from that situation. And this is what I've been doing, particularly with Pam. And sometimes when they're using her to target me, hold on, let me turn on this. It's a little too dark. All right, there we go. So sometimes when they're using her to target me very heavily, all right. And I understand that there was one time when she was like all up in my face, like she wanted to fight me and this and that and such and such. And I was like, you know what? Let me remove myself from that situation. And I've always done that. And I do it because, she doesn't understand what's happening. Okay. And whether, maybe she does now, but back then she didn't really understand what was happening, how she was being used and co-opted. They might have told her certain things, but in terms of the technology being used, they have not told her that. All right. And so I used to again, it's a lot of stress when you have young kids, and particularly in my situation, when I try to like I said, I use my kids as grounding. Like they keep me in reality. Okay, despite of them using the technology, microwaving us and stuff like that, but my kids, because they are important to me. And you see, what they will do is they'll try to remove the things that are important to you, right? The things that can keep you grounded, because they want to destabilize you, not just financially, not just relationship wise, but psychologically, mentality wise. They will remove all sort of support structure and resources. Okay. And then they will come when you've been isolated, then they will start to send you subliminal messages. They will start to deny you from accessing certain things. As I recently, and I started posting on Facebook, and I'm getting a message saying that my posts are being reviewed. Why? So understand what's happening and how they do these things. This is why, like I said, they'll still send me these negative subliminal messages. I just curse them in my mind. I'm like, fuck you motherfuckers, it's not going to happen. Okay? Because I'm aware now. All right? I'm aware. When you don't have an awareness, you're going to act. And how they do it, again, is that they'll use drugs, they'll use alcohol, they'll create situations, okay, in which they will nudge you. When I say nudge, meaning that they will, when you're outside, for example, and they're trying to cause you to react in a violent way, in a fight or flight, they will do things to nudge you. So like you're being attacked and it's affecting you, somebody will come and bump into you and be like, oh, I'm sorry. And, before, you're not even thinking about them saying the apology, you just want to just, pound them. So you got to understand these things, how they're very good at finessing and manipulating you, okay, and creating situations in which they already know the outcome, because they already know how you've been programmed, plus the use of the technology to change your way of thinking, and it does it over time. Okay, this is why this you're in this program for many years. Okay, if you are aware, you can fight back. If you're not aware, they will change your personality, and no one would know what they've done to you. No one. Okay, so, but it's a new day. It's a new day, and like I said, I will be a tool that it will be used to expose them and what it is that they do, regardless of the consequences. Because it is, too many of us, not just people in general, too many of us, okay, have been conditioned with an extreme sense of individualism, of hyper selfishness and hyper individualism. And this happens to everybody, but in particular within the Black community, because the majority of Black people are working class and working class poor. Okay, so we tend to just be even more hyper individualism, with the belief of individualism, more hyper in the belief of extreme selfishness, that we no longer do what our ancestors did, our forefathers did, in order to make a little sacrifice so that the future generations could have it better. Okay? And so any Black person who wants to do things that are positive for the Black community, for Black people, they will seek to eradicate by any means necessary. And me exposing it and then telling me that they're going to bury me because I expose it, well, then bury me. Because you will not prevent me or stop me from telling the truth, from exposing the lies, from exposing the deception, particularly when it comes to technology and being created, they have been developed for the exact manipulation and the control of the human mind. Okay? So like I said, you bury me, I bury you. You put me into this program. You decided that you saw an easy opportunity. You saw two brothers who you felt didn't know much, come from a religious background, that you can manipulate two twins that you heard talking in your surveillance about when they were younger, about one being bitten by a dog and the other one feeling the pain, and their mother taking them to the hospital, and the doctor is bringing the other one in, the one that wasn't bitten by the dog, because he was crying, his legs was hurting, he was holding the same spot on his leg that his brother got bitten. And you thought that you were going to, put these two individuals in an experimental program. But I, for one, I'm not going to become silent to this. I, for one, I'm not going to be used as a patsy that you want to turn people against because you want to hide the fact that what you've done. So yes, I have been studying what you've been doing, and I have profiled you. Those who have the dog triad personality, who see us as pawns that they can use, that they can abuse, that they can, use as funding sources for money, that you can participate in the oppression, the destruction, particularly of Black people. And there are going to be many more videos coming that's going to expose a lot of the things within the system and how they've always used Black people as a source of funding, meaning robbing them of their money, their hard-earned money, using the judicial system, using the municipalities, so they can have exuberant salaries. Yeah, they're coming. So you have awakened the ancestors within me, and we're going to show you, and we're going to show the people, the world, exactly who you are. Evil, malicious, intentful in the destruction of human beings, because you're sick. You need some medication. Isn't that what you tell us TIs? When you go around in neighborhoods of poor black people and you look for those that have mental issues and you manipulate them and you pat yourself on the back like you're doing a fucking job, like you're doing a great fucking job. You're not doing a great job. You're pussies. You're cowards. That's who you are. And then you put out in the newspaper how you stop terrorism. You didn't stop no fucking terrorism. Fuck you, motherfuckers. Yeah, I'm talking to you. And yes, I am pissed. And I should be. And you're not going to quell my anger. I don't care how much noise you want to make. And you can kill me today, tomorrow, whenever. But there's nothing worth dying for, like sacrificing for your people, like telling the truth, like exposing those who have power, who is corrupted, who is evil, vindictive and vicious. You think I don't know? You're trying to make us into who you are, to take the blame, to take the focus off of who you are. Or like I said, all you got to do, anybody's listening, anybody's watching, you want to know where the real criminals are, where the real pedophiles, the real serial killers, the rapists, where they are, where the majority of them are? They operate inside law enforcement, inside the security agencies. He used psychology to manipulate women for their sexual interests, for their sexual pleasure, who get away with drugging people. Where do you think the perps get these ideas from when they drug us, when they do these things to us? Come on. So please, don't get me started. I don't want to get angry and start cursing up a storm in here, but I could. But like I said, you want to have this fight, whether it be in the public sphere, whichever forum you want, we're going to have it. Because I have plenty of evidence, plenty of documentation to show exactly who you are. When I say you, I mean as a group of individuals who engage in this kind of behavior because they feel that they're in a position of power that they can get away with it. Not today. Not while I'm alive. Anyway, as TIs, hold your head up, understand what's being done. Speak out. Those who cannot speak out, we are others. There are others like us who will speak out for you. Okay? They're not going to destroy my life and think that they're going to get away with it. They're not going to destroy your life and think that they're going to get away with it. The more people are aware, this is why they try to suppress the truth and information. And if you look at any regime that they claim is repressive and suppressive with people and information, that is exactly who they are also. Don't be fooled. Look around and see what's going on. Particularly here in America, how they have manipulated the American public. There's an interesting video. It's called from the Academy of Ideas YouTube channel. You guys should check it out. Okay, it's I forgot the name of it, but You can go scroll through the videos, but it tells you what happens when those in power create a sick society, create a society that is mentally ill. What happens? Go check it out. Anyway, I will speak to you guys in the next target individual video, the next target individual experience.